Okay, so let's talk about another Pokemon theory that's actually very interesting. So back in 1999, there was a gold and silver, another demo that was released, and some of the sprites were actually different. And one of them actually kind of caught my eye. It was the they actually kind of gave like a camera underscreen shot of like what Marowak's chin looks like, and it actually revealed something that I don't think too many people actually really thought of before. I've mentioned before that when you look at Marowak's skull, it actually looks like the skull itself is where its mouth is too. However, though, that might not have been always how Marowak's design originally was. Maybe it might even still be a little bit different. But apparently the skull that Cubone wears on its head is actually like only like the upper part of Marowak's skull. If you actually look at this sprite, Marowak's mouth is like, it's not even part of Marowak's mouth. So it's just really just like the upper half, but the jaw is missing. And then whatever Marowak's regular. So to say that Marowak looks completely like the skull is part of Marowak's mouth, it might actually not have been like that at some point. So the jaw part might have been changed. Because if I remember correctly, you know, Marowak, even in the anime, was like the skull was its skull. You know, it just grew over it. Right, but it's like the one that Cubone wears, because again, Marowak is Cubone's mother, let's just be honest here, in this case at least. And they can still be Kangaskhan's, but at the same time, maybe the skulls that the Cubones wear are actually other dead animals too. It's not necessarily the skull that Marowak actually had, you know, it was just the one that it wore on its head. Or maybe it was both, you know, that's another good question to think about. You know, it's the one that's just passed down from Pokemon to Pokemon, or maybe vice versa though. So anyways, basically Marowak's design might have been a little different too. Not too much different, but to kind of give us an idea of just kind of like the habitat that it has. That, you know, they do go around collecting skulls, or maybe that was their skull, who knows. But then again, it still does make you wonder, you know, how does Cubone have a skull? You know, it's, maybe they're rooting the wrong graves, you know, because they are always hiding out in graveyards somewhere. You know, they dig up, they're grave robbers, and they're also ritual Pokemon. They got a really dark past, let's be honest. I mean, Pokemon isn't always, you know, I mean, they did take a lot of realistic terms, but there are some dark stuff about Pokemon, and that is one of them. So I don't think, like, the way I look at it, I think maybe Marowak's skull still is the same, but like at the same time though, I do think like we do still know the story of it. It doesn't really impact it that much, but it does make me wonder though if the skull it is wearing is like from somebody else or its own. That's actually kind of interesting to think about. That is interesting, because then it makes me wonder, what does Marowak look like without a skull on, sort of, you know? So then how much different does Cubone look without its skull on, you know? Is it still the same baby Kangaskhan, or is it just an off-breed Kangaskhan? Probably. I still do think Kangaskhan and Cubones are somewhat related. It just makes sense. But at the same time, though, they... because the Guardia evolution is gone, and there's no way Cubone would be able to wear Guardia's skull, because that Pokemon was like 7'11" or something like that, 7'3" or something like that. And Cubone was like a foot tall, so a baby Pokemon is not going to be able to wear the headmaster of its tribes. But it's definitely a very cute Pokemon, though, despite its dark and sad history. But makes me wish I had a kangaroo, sort of. And so yeah, so I do think that that's just worth pointing out, and if I do find any more information on it, I'll have to make more videos about it. But yeah, so subscribe if you're not, and hopefully if you have any questions, we can talk about this. But what do you guys think? I mean, I do think that it wouldn't surprise me either way. You know, it's either the skull did come from like another graveyard, or maybe, because they are bone collectors after all, so that's kind of a hint. But the skull that it wears on its head, though, I mean, does Marowak have two skulls? The one that's inside of its head and the one it wears on its head? You know, kind of like a Halloween decoration, sort of. I wouldn't be surprised.